All right, welcome to your deep dive. You ready to get into it today?
Absolutely. Always excited to dive in.
Okay, so today we're going to figure out what's made SmartLess so massively successful, right?
Yeah.
And, I think you're in the right place to really understand it because we've got this really cool analysis from a popular podcast review channel.
Awesome.
So really smart stuff.
Yeah. I think one of the things that's so interesting about SmartLess is they create the sense of intimacy.
Right.
Yeah. Even though they have these massive celebrity guests, it's almost like they figured out how to get A-listers to open up in a way we haven't really seen before.
Yeah, it's true. And it's so interesting because, you wouldn't think a podcast with Jason Bateman, Will Arnett, and Sean Hayes would be like a place for vulnerability, but somehow they do it.
They really do.
And the review channel, they really hit on the hosts' chemistry, right? Like that's a huge factor.
Oh, absolutely. And their dynamic, it's just fascinating. They're funny, obviously, but it's more than that.
Right.
It's like the roles they each play. Bateman is kind of like the anchor. Arnett brings that sort of chaotic, unpredictable energy. And then Hayes is just warm and genuinely curious about everyone.
Yeah. It's like the perfect balance. It's a comedic equation or something.
Yeah, totally.
And obviously it helps that they're all actually close in real life.
Right. Like you're just hanging out with your buddies.
It just feels so real.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel put on at all. And speaking of things that feel real, the review channel really pointed to that surprise guest format as being such a key part of what makes it work so well.
Oh, it's brilliant. The surprise, it just keeps everyone on their toes, right?
Yeah.
The hosts, the listeners.
Yeah.
I even wonder if it helps the guests relax a little.
Oh, that's interesting. How so?
Well, think about it. If you're a guest,
No.
and even the hosts don't know who you are, it's got to take some of the pressure off, right?
I guess so, yeah. It's less like a formal interview and more like a chat.
Exactly.
And speaking of guests, they've had some pretty huge names on that show.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. Like Tom Hanks, Jennifer Aniston, Barack Obama, Paul McCartney. The list goes on and on.
Yeah, that range is wild.
Yeah, but it's not just who they get. It's how they treat them. They don't act all starstruck or anything.
Yeah.
It's just like they're talking to their buddies,
Yeah, it's like, hey, you're a big deal, but we're all just, hanging out here.
Exactly.
And that's what makes it so relatable, right?
Oh, 100%.
Like the review channel, they specifically called out that relatability factor.
It is so relatable. And you think about it, right? 3 super successful actors.
Right.
You wouldn't think that would be relatable.
No.
But they are.
Yeah.
They're self-deprecating. They're sharing personal stuff.
They poke fun at each other.
All the time. It's great.
Yeah.
It's like they're giving us all permission to laugh at ourselves.
Right.
At the absurdity of life.
Yeah.
Even if, or maybe especially if you're surrounded by, fame and all of that.
Yeah, they don't shy away from those personal moments at all.
No, they don't. And I think that's why so many people feel like they're, part of the group with these guys. Like they're being led in on a genuine conversation, not just some polished, performance.
Yeah. You feel like you're eavesdropping on this hilarious hangout or something.
Totally.
Yeah.
Which is, that's fun.
It's great.
I love that. And actually the review channel, they broke it down into 4 main things,
Okay.
The surprise guests, the fact that it's so funny and authentic. The A-list guests, obviously that's a big draw. And then that relatability factor.
Yeah. It's like they found the formula.
Yeah. They really, they cracked the code.
They did. And, it's not just the podcast either.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
They're doing live shows now.
It's huge.
Which is kind of wild for a podcaster.
It shows that it's not just a podcast. It's an experience.
It's like they tapped into something bigger.
They really did.
Than just the audio, right? It's an event. It's a community.
It is.
And so, it's no surprise that it's getting attention, right?
Of course not.
They signed this huge deal with Amazon, which is that's a big deal.
That's a game changer. And it shows how much Amazon believes in them,
Absolutely.
It'll be interesting to see what they do with those resources. They could really change the whole podcast world.
Yeah, it's really exciting to think about.
Absolutely.
But okay, before we get ahead of ourselves, let's go back to those A-list guests for a minute.
Okay.
Because the review channel, they highlighted a few specific episodes that they thought were must listens.
Okay, yeah.
And I gotta say, I'm really intrigued by the Tom Hanks one
Uh-huh.
because he's just such a good storyteller.
He's the best.
Like just captivating.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get into those specific episodes in a bit, I think.
Yeah.
But before we do that,
Okay.
I wanna explore a little bit, like, why are these elements,
Yeah.
resonating with people? Like, what is it about this formula that's like connecting with so many listeners?
That's a really great question. And I think it's more than just like surface level entertainment, right? I
Yeah.
think it's tapping into something deeper. Like people are craving authenticity.
Yeah.
Real connection, genuine surprise.
Yeah.
Because the world can feel so predictable.
Right.
So SmartLess gives them a break from that,
Yeah.
you know?
It's like a breath of fresh air
It is.
in a world that's like so over rehearsed and fake.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So true. It's like they've created this space where we can just like, let our guard down, be ourselves, and
Yeah.
just enjoy it.
Totally. And, we'll definitely dive more into that.
A bit.
First, we've got to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back.
It's interesting, right? Like how SmartLess kind of flips the script on how we think about celebrities.
Totally.
We're so used to seeing this, like, polished image,
Yeah.
all perfect and PR approved.
Right.
And SmartLess, they just, like, rip that all away.
Yeah. Like we get to see like the real person behind the curtain.
Exactly. And the review channel actually talked about the Jennifer Aniston episode.
Yeah.
It's a great example of that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because in that one, Aniston actually talks about, like, the pressure of fame,
Wow.
being in the public eye all the time.
Right.
And even some personal stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It was pretty powerful.
That's awesome. It's those moments, right? Like the vulnerable ones that make it so special.
Absolutely.
Because it reminds us that even these like super successful people,
Right.
they deal with the same stuff we do,
They do.
insecurities, fears,
All
challenges, life.
Yep.
And it just like humanizes them
it does.
in a way that you just don't get from like a typical interview,
I know you don't. And I think that's like at the heart of why people connect so strongly with this podcast.
Totally.
It's not just like, oh, this is funny,
Yeah.
It's like, oh, wow, we're all just like human
Yeah.
going through this crazy thing called life together.
You've totally nailed it, I think.
Right.
Yeah, it's like they've created this space, this safe space where it's okay to just like let your guard down.
Yeah.
And as listeners, we get to like be there for it.
Yeah. It's like we're a fly on the wall for these really genuine moments.
Yeah.
And it's not just the guests who are opening up, right?
Oh yeah, right.
The hosts are really candid too.
You totally
They're
will.
sharing their own stories,
Yeah.
fears, insecurities,
Yeah.
And it creates this sense of like reciprocity.
Right.
Like we're all in on this together,
Yeah, totally. It's like they're saying, "Hey, we're all kind of messed up,
Oh, yeah.
but that's okay. Let's laugh about it."
Exactly. And I think that's like such an important message,
Yeah,
especially now when things feel so isolating.
for sure.
So yeah,
So true.
it's a good reminder.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh. We can't forget to talk about the Barack Obama episode.
Oh, yes. That was a good one.
Right. It was so insightful.
Yeah.
And they like actually managed to make it funny
Right.
while also talking about some like really important stuff.
Yeah. It's such a tricky balance,
It is.
but they made it work so well.
It really did.
Mhm.
I think it speaks to like their skill as interviewers.
Oh, for sure.
And they created an environment where even like President Obama felt
Yeah.
comfortable just being himself.
It was so cool to see, right?
It was.
Yeah.
And Obama seemed to be into it.
Yeah, he was game.
Yeah, he was playing along with the jokes.
Yeah, totally.
Which, you don't really see that side of him in those like super formal interviews.
Oh, you don't.
So it was like extra fast.
Yeah, he was just so witty and just like down to earth.
Yeah. And it really showed, I think, what SmartLess can be.
Yeah.
Like they can talk about serious things,
Mhm.
but still keep it light and fun,
Right. Yeah.
which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a really cool balance, and I think it's a testament to the trust that they've built with their audience,
Absolutely.
Like people know they're going to laugh,
Yeah.
but they also know they might like learn something or
Right.
see something from a different perspective.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it's rare to find that
Yeah,
in a podcast or, anything really.
totally.
So, yeah, they've created something that's both like deeply personal,
Yeah.
but also like universal.
Yeah.
And that's like, it's a real testament to connection,
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
human connection.
Beautifully said, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've talked about the hosts, we've talked about the guests, but I think it's worth like zooming out for a second, okay? And thinking about the impact this is having on podcasting, like as a whole.
That's a great point.
Right, because they're not just like making a good podcast, they're like changing the game.
They really are.
Right.
Like pushing the boundaries of what a podcast can be.
Totally. It's like they opened up this whole new world of possibilities, right? Like you can have these big name guests, high production value, but still keep it like intimate conversational, which is like what makes podcasts so great in the first place,
It is. And I think they've also like inspired so many people to start their own podcasts.
Oh, totally.
Right? Like they've shown that you don't need like a fancy studio or years of experience to create something really amazing.
Yeah, it's really inspiring. Yeah.
It is. It's about the connection, the authenticity, the willingness to like be yourself and share your story.
Yeah.
And anyone can do that.
Absolutely.
Regardless of like background or experience.
Yeah.
And that's powerful,
Yeah.
It's about like giving people permission to find their voice and share it. So, who knows? Maybe the next SmartLess is out there.
Oh, I love that. I hope so.
Yeah.
But okay, before we go looking for the next big thing, I'm curious, like what are the key takeaways from SmartLess? Like what can we as listeners learn from this?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things is like embrace the unexpected.
Yeah.
Like SmartLess thrives on that surprise.
Right.
And it reminds us that like sometimes the most rewarding things in life come from stepping outside your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Letting go of control a little bit.
That's so true.
Right.
Yeah, and it's not just like big life stuff, No, totally.
It's like the small things too.
Exactly.
Being open to like new experiences, saying yes to things you wouldn't normally.
Yeah, like try a new restaurant.
Right.
Talk to a stranger,
Yeah.
Just be present, be open to whatever happens.
Yeah, I love that.
Right. It's a great way to live.
Yeah, and it's like what makes SmartLess so fun, right?
Absolutely, that unpredictability.
Yeah.
You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and it's so different from all the like carefully curated stuff we see all the time.
Yes. It's a breath of fresh air.
Okay, so you've put it perfectly, I think.
Really?
Yeah, SmartLess is a reminder that like sometimes the best stuff comes from just letting go.
Absolutely.
Letting go of the script, embracing the unexpected.
Totally. But speaking of unexpected,
Okay, yeah.
let's get back to those specific episodes.
Yes.
The review channel mentioned.
Yes.
I'm still dying to hear about Tom Hanks' stories. Me too. Okay, so tell me more about Tom Hanks
All right. Yeah.
and Castaway.
So he was talking about filming in Fiji,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And they had some downtime one day.
Okay.
And Hanks, he decides to go exploring.
Okay.
And he ends up stumbling upon this, like, remote village.
What?
He had no idea it was there.
Whoa, that's crazy. Like he was literally on a deserted island, right?
He was. I mean, that was the whole premise of the movie, right?
Yeah. So, like, what happened? Did he, like, run back to set and tell everyone?
Well, yeah, eventually. But first,
Okay.
he describes being welcomed into the village, like, with open arms.
Oh, wow.
Like, they were so excited to see him.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And he spent the whole day with them,
Really?
Yeah, learning about their culture,
Wow.
sharing a meal.
That's so cool.
Yeah, he said it was one of the most, like, profound experiences of his life.
Wow, I bet. That's a pretty incredible story.
It is. And it just goes to show you.
Yeah.
Like, even when you're, like, making a Hollywood movie,
Yeah,
real life can still surprise you.
totally. In
Yeah.
the best way possible.
Absolutely. And that seems to be, like, a theme in a lot of these SmartLess episodes.
Yeah, you're right.
It's like they're always reminding us to, like, be open to those unscripted moments.
Right, because that's where the magic happens.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like, it's such a universal truth, isn't it?
It is.
Like, life is full of surprises.
It is.
And the best stuff is usually the stuff you don't plan for.
Totally agree. Yeah.
So, okay, it's not always about, being on a movie set in Fiji.
No, of course not.
Right. It's about having that sense of curiosity,
Yeah.
that openness to experience, like in your everyday life.
Absolutely.
Saying yes to new stuff.
Yeah. trying new things.
Talking to new people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just being open to it all.
Yeah, and I think SmartLess does such a good job of, like, reminding us of that.
I think so, too.
It's like they're giving us permission to be, like, more playful, more spontaneous, more present.
Totally.
And they do it in such a, like, fun and genuine way.
They do, yeah. It's not preachy at all.
No, it's not like a lecture or anything. It's
Yeah.
just, like, you're hanging out with your friends.
Yeah, just having a good time.
Which makes it so relatable.
It really does.
Yeah, like you're just part of the group.
Totally. And it's such a good reminder, too, that even though, the world can feel kind of crazy sometimes.
Yeah.
We're all connected,
Yeah.
We all want the same things. To laugh, to connect, to belong.
That's so true.
It's like basic human stuff.
Yeah, you're so right.
And SmartLess just gives us a little taste of that.
Yeah, it does.
A reminder that it's still possible.
Okay, so as we wrap up our deep dive here, what's like the one thing you hope our listener takes away from this?
That's a good one. I think, embrace the unexpected.
Okay, yeah.
Both in your own life
Yeah.
and in what you watch and listen to.
Right.
Be open to new experiences, new perspectives. Don't be afraid to get outside your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Who knows? You might just find your own version of a Fijian village.
Oh, I love that. That's a great way to put it.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so embrace the unexpected.
Yeah.
Stay curious. Keep exploring.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, this has been so much fun.
It has.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next time.